So we didn't do much of the trade deadline. We signed Jake Evans and we kept Savard and Armia. You know what? Given all the selling that we've done over the past couple of years and where we are placed in the standings right now, I'm happy with that. As a Habs fan, I really don't think that getting second round picks for Armia and Savard are going to be overly important over the next while. So I like what the Habs team did at the trade deadline. Lou woke up. Lou Lamoriello cooked. He finally moved off a player who had a pending UFA contract when we're not in a really good position. And we got Richie in a first round pick. Like, my goodness, if Lamoriello did this more often, we wouldn't be in this position. But this is a fantastic move. Love the trade deadline that the Islanders had. So at the beginning of the season, we were supposed to be Eastern Conference finalists again. We're supposed to be going far in the playoffs this year. And by the trade deadline, we move off our pending UFAs such as Lindgren, such as Smith, and we add JT Miller in season. That's our biggest addition. This is not the way I was expecting the New York Rangers season to go. Man, I hope this offseason is really good. This stinks. You gotta be kidding me. On top of adding Mikael Granlund and Cody Ceci early in the year, we've now got Rantanen, and we've gone for 8.5 years. Like, Jim Nill deserves GM of the Year. Beautiful piece of work. Is the draft picks bad? For sure, but fantastic piece of work there from Jim Nill. Rantanen's going to help this team finally get to the Cup final. You know what? We didn't do as much big things as teams like the Stars or the Avalanche did, but we did what we needed to do, like add some depth on the forward group by adding Brandon Tanev, add some defensive upgrade by getting Luke Schenn. All in all, I don't think the Jets had a really bad trade deadline. Like, add a solid top four right shot defenseman, bomb six help. I like what the Jets did this trade deadline, even though it's a bit of a steep asking price. Solid trade deadline here from the Winnipeg Jets. You know what? Given our position, law of long-term contracts, and a seller market right now, I actually like what we did. We moved off Thomas Novak, Luke Schenn, we moved off Nyquist, Alex Carrier earlier in the year. We swapped backup goaltenders. We now have a solid goaltender of the future in a union. Like, this team's trending in the right direction. Hopefully, the offseason we continue to trend well. It's not overly great at this point in time, but given the situation, I really like what the Predators did this trade deadline. So we lose 3 games going into the trade deadline, and what does Steve Yzerman do? He gets us Peter Mrazek. Peter Mrazek, that's their biggest trade deadline upgrade. We're not sellers, but we're not really buyers either. Like, if this team misses the playoffs again, Yzerman's gotta go. Yzerman's had years of practice to have this team better, and it's not working. If Mrazek's our biggest trade deadline upgrade, there's gotta be something wrong. Why the heck didn't we do more at this year's trade deadline? It actually happened. We sold off pieces. We were sellers. And not only did we just move off pieces, we moved off Carlo to Toronto and our captain Marchand to the team who kicked us out of the playoffs each of the last 2 seasons. Is this how fans of teams who sell the trade deadline feel? This feels awful. I gotta go make some apologies to some people. So, last year at the trade deadline, we added Elias Lindholm. Earlier in the year, we added Nikita Zadorov. We added a couple of other decent pieces at the trade deadline. What do we do this year? We sold off Carson Soucy. That's it. Besides the Miller and Pettersson ones from early in the year. I sure hope this front office knows what they're doing, because we didn't really upgrade a whole bunch, and I'm not overly confident this team's about to make a playoff run right now. You know what? I'm alright with the way the Ducks handled this trade deadline. We sold off a pending UFA for Brian Dumoulin, got one heck of a return, and we kept guys like Vetrano, Zegras, Gibson. We rewarded this team with where they're on the standings right now. I'm okay with this, and hopefully after a strong offseason next year, we can finally be competing for playoff time. So we made no moves in the trade deadline, and only a couple of moves in season. I know Fairbairn Frost was a decent upgrade, especially with them being young players, but I guess given all the noise over the past couple of trade deadlines, it'd be alright not to sell. I'm alright with this trade deadline, even if we didn't move off any of our pieces. I mean, I'm not happy with the Wild not making too many moves, given the fact that the Avalanche did and the Stars did, but I'm pretty happy as a Wild fan, given the bad cap situation we've been dealt so far this year. Adding Nyquist and a couple of other lower end pieces, it's not overly bad. I think those upgrades could help us do a little bit of damage in the playoffs. Brad Treliving, you genius. I know I've talked a lot of crap about you earlier in the year and with the Marners things and things like that, but you know what? I'm happy with this year's trade deadline. We got Lawton, who we've been after for a long time, and we got Brandon Carlo from our rivals. I know we had to give up Minton, Grabionka, and a couple of first round picks, and you know, it's not overly great, but still. Carlo, top 4 defenseman, playoff style guy. Lawton, playoff style guy. I'll take that trade deadline any day of the week. Let's go finally get out of the first round. I don't think you're getting out of the first round, even with those moves. Steve Staios, I absolutely love what you did at the trade deadline. You trade Cousins for Norris, sure. Didn't want to really lose Norris, but Cousins is younger and cheaper. I think he works well on that team and should be a solid top 6 addition. And then we steal Fabian Zetterlund from the San Jose Sharks. Like, absolutely great trade deadline for the Ottawa Senators. Absolutely fantastic work from Staios. What are we doing? I know the haul was good. 2 first-rounders, a 3rd-rounder, and youngster Stankoven. Like, that's a really good haul for Rantanen. But we were supposed to be all in. Why the heck would we acquire Rantanen in the first place and move Natchez if we were just to flip him for Stankoven? We could have had Natchez. We could have had Rantanen. We could have been a solid, dominant team with some forward upgrades. And even after we traded Rantanen, we could have moved one of those first-round picks to get forward upgrades. What are we doing? Are we going all in or not? Why the heck do we not make more moves at the trade deadline? Why the heck do we still have this top 9 looking like this? So we lose Jack Hughes and Dougie Hamilton, most likely for the season, due to injuries. And what's our biggest trade deadline adds? Cody Glass and Brian Dumoulin. Our front office got Cody Glass and Brian Dumoulin to replace Dougie Hamilton and Jack Hughes. We're not winning a playoff series this year, are we? So we make no moves at this year's trade deadline. Well, I guess given our position, long-term contracts, unless we're getting a really good return for like a Shen or a Binnington, I guess it didn't really make sense to start selling off pieces. So I guess I'm all right with this trade deadline, but I would like to see a little bit more action. So there was a lot of rumors about us going after Rantanen, Raquel, Besser, someone who could fit in this top 6 and make a scoring impact. And what does our front office do? They go after Andrei Kuzmenko. Sure, he has history of being a good goal scorer, but is this really the upgrade that's going to get us past the Edmonton Oilers? Because I don't really think Kuzmenko strengthens the forward group enough to get us over the hump and finally beat the Oilers. Kyle Dubas, absolute masterclass of a trade deadline. Love to see what you did. Luke Shen, acquired him, flipped him, 2nd round pick, great. Bouvillier, gone, 2nd round pick, great. We acquired Novak, great. Marcus Patterson, Drew O'Connor, got 1st round pick early in the year, great. Love to see this selling mode here from Kyle Dubas. Now let's keep going in the off season. So can other teams now give us 2 1st round picks and a top prospect for Raquel? Let's do that in the off season. We're dead last in the Eastern Conference. We have a chance to sell guys like Zucker and Greenway. We signed both of those, and our biggest trades are moving a top 4 right shot defenseman who didn't want to be here, who's on the younger side of things, and flipping Dylan Cousins for Josh Norris. This front office better be figuring out something long term, because I don't think as a Sabres fan, Buffalo's going to make the playoffs anytime soon with the moves that we're making right now. Will Greer, absolutely fantastic trade deadline. You move Granlund and Ceci, get a 1st earlier in the year. You move Blackwood, get a couple of decent picks. Like, we made a whole bunch of moves throughout the season, not to mention fleecing the Edmonton Oilers for getting a 1st round pick for Jake Wellman. Absolutely brilliant trade deadline. Hands down, we're the winners. In a couple of years' time, sounds like it's going to be an absolute scary playoff contending team. We got Jake Wallman from the San Jose Sharks. That should help that blue line, absolutely. And on top of that, we got a playoff style forward who can fit in our top 9, Trent Frederick. This is a great addition here from the Edmonton Oilers. I'm not looking at the picks we gave up, but absolutely great. This should help us finally get over the hump and win the Stanley Cup we couldn't last year. You know, I was a little bit upset at first for the Mikko Rantanen trade earlier in the year, but absolutely brilliant moves from the Avalanche front office. Defensive upgrade? Check. We got Ryan Lindgren. Center upgrade? Check. We got Brock Nelson and Charlie Coyle. We got Martin Necas early in the year. Like, this team has incredible depth, great blue line, and the goaltending's now playing at an unreal level. Let's go win a cup again. So you know what, I'm not overly surprised with the front office's take for this year's trade deadline. Like, we're doing really good, didn't want to subtract anything from our roster, give a 4th round pick to get Kunin. Like, honestly, I take that all day. Now let's go finally make the playoffs and prove all those doubters wrong. You know what, given the prices that were out there, I'm happy with our trade deadline. Moving Gord and Bjorkstrand for 2 1st round picks is outstanding from Ron Francis, and Canada for a 2nd round pick, another brilliant move. Like, I know we sold off some of our original Kraken players, but man, those are some really good returns. I'm absolutely happy. Now let's go and retool this offseason properly so we can finally make the playoffs next year. You know what? I'm okay with this. I was hoping for some sort of a big ad with a younger player, but keeping all of our players, signing Kerfoot, Cole, Vejmelka, Mata to new deals, I'm all right with that. Well, let's go try and see if we can edge out Calgary, Vancouver for that last playoff spot. You're telling me that the Vegas Golden Knights, the team who's known for making the big deadline acquisitions and making it just at the end of the trade deadline, made 2 trades and only added Riley Smith. I'm disappointed. I know that Riley Smith coming back is absolutely fantastic. Good to see another original Knight member back on my team, but still, this stinks. Where was our big ad that we had last year? I'm really confused as to what this front office is doing. I know trading Jones for Knight was a brilliant move, getting Knight a first-round pick for a long-term contract like that. That's brilliant. But on the downside of things, we didn't move Ryan Donato. We didn't move Alec Martinez. We didn't move Patrick Maroon. I know we moved Mrazek and there were a couple of other smaller deals, but I was expecting more from this Blackhawks team at the trade deadline. You know what? We don't want to mess with chemistry, so I think this was actually a really good deadline for the Capitals. Add Bouvillier for a second-round pick. That's probably going to be closer to a third-round pick in this year's draft. I take that. Bouvillier's going to add some depth. I think I'm happy as a Washington Capitals fan. Bill Zito, you genius. Not only did we acquire Seth Jones, which helped our defense, which was the one glaring hole on this team, but on top of that, we had Vanacek to replace Knight, we had Sturm to add some forward depth on the 4th line, and we stole Brad Marchand from our rivals in Boston. Absolutely brilliant trade deadline from the Florida Panthers. Let's go win back-to-back cups. You know what? At some points this offseason, I was really concerned with the Tampa Bay Lightning team. Absolutely brilliant moves from Julien Brisebois at the trade deadline. I mean, adding Bjorkstrand and Gord, sure, return. It might be a bit of an overpayment, but Gord's back with this team. Solid bottom 6 forward. We know that better than anyone. And Bjorkstrand's going to be a solid top 9 goal scoring forward here for the Bolts. I'm liking what this Bolts team's doing. Let's go win another cup.